A lonely nerd and a delinquent baddie get together to fight aliens and ghosts after they get abducted and possessed. It all started on a regular day when the delinquent Momo got dumped by her gold digger boyfriend. Though he kicked her in the guts and cursed her for being broke before breaking up with her, this needy girl still gets depressed because he was her first ever boyfriend. Her best friends make fun of her, asking what the hell did she even see in that guy. She replies that he looked a bit like her favorite actor, and she always wanted an awkward masculine boyfriend like that. Her friends tell her that no one can afford a masculine boyfriend at this age when people don't even know their gender. Later, Momo drags herself through the corridors when she notices some boys bullying a poor nerd named Ken. Momo takes a seat next to the poor nerd and starts talking to him, and since the bullies don't dare to mess with her, they quickly turn their faces around. She then heads out with her pent-up stress reaching its limit, when suddenly, the nerd Ken comes there. He doesn't dare to face her, but yells that he knows Momo is in love. Momo tells him to come out of his Delulu world because, even though she is desperate, she won't fall for someone like him. However, what Ken means is that she fell in love with the content in his magazine that talks about UFOs and aliens. Momo tells him she's not interested in all those stupid conspiracy theories, but Ken is still persistent like a YouTube pickup artist. Momo tells him to shut the hell up because she doesn't have time for his yapping when she just got dumped. She tells him that he doesn't have any friends because he is a pushy nerd, leaving Ken stunned. Momo immediately realizes that she was a bit too harsh with him and picks up his book while apologizing. She tells Ken that she doesn't believe in aliens, but in ghosts, and he suddenly starts laughing at her. He says that just because she gets ghosted doesn't mean they exist. They start arguing about whether ghosts are real or aliens and decide to prove to each other that they are right. At night, Momo goes to a creepy abandoned hospital because according to Ken, that is the place where aliens abduct humans. On the other hand, she has sent Ken to an abandoned tunnel, saying that it is a spiritual hotspot with many ghost sightings. Ken is nervous, and as he heads closer to the tunnel, he feels the tunnel drawing him in. He asks Momo if she has ever seen a ghost. She tells him that she has not, but she is sure that ghosts exist because her grandma is a shaman, and she has learned all about ghosts from her. Because of her grandma, she always had to do a good luck ritual whenever she left the house and walked to the school while raising one finger above her head. Momo says she always felt odd doing that, and everyone made fun of her, so she got mad at her grandma for telling her to do something so stupid. That is why she had a big fight with her grandma and stopped doing the good luck ritual. However, she now understands that she was not mad at her grandma, but at the boys who made fun of her practices. She tells Ken that she was always proud of her grandma's unique job, and that is why she wants to believe in ghosts. Once she is done with her story, Momo asks Ken why he is into aliens. He tells her that he doesn't need a reason to like aliens, and she is fine with that. Just then, Ken sees some bloody footprints on the ground that stop right where he is standing. He immediately turns around to see if anyone is nearby, and to his horror, there is the ghost of an old hooker who tells Ken that she can give him a hawk tuah for $2. Ken freaks out and starts running away from her while screaming. Momo asks what's wrong, and he tells her that he just ran into a lewd old woman, trying to convince himself that he didn't just see a ghost. Momo tells him to stop running because the old ghost called Turbo Granny will chase after him, and if she catches up to him, he will forever be cursed. She is too late in telling this because the ghost catches Ken almost immediately, and Momo only hears his screams before the call ends and her cell phone screen turns red. She thinks that Ken is in danger and rushes to help him when suddenly, the lights of the building go out, and 3 weird-looking people appear. Momo wonders what the hell is happening and tries to run away, but the 3 men catch her. When she wakes up, she is being held captive in a special chair. The 3 men tell her that they are aliens from the planet called Serpo, where only males exist and they reproduce through cloning technology. Excessive cloning messed up their evolution chart, and they have lost all their basic emotions, so they are on Earth to find females here to help them kickstart a new generation. One alien pulls out a massive mechanical schlong out of his pants, which makes her scream, but her struggles are useless as the aliens use their hypnotizing power to put her to sleep. However, just as they are about to take away her V-card, her cell phone rings. They all stop, and one alien goes to pick it up, and then suddenly, the granny ghost comes out of it and smacks him away. She immediately proceeds to bite the balls of the alien and sends him flying. It turns out Ken's body has been possessed by the ghost, and Momo is relieved to see him even in this form. She asks him if he can help her, but Ken loses control of his body to the Turbo Granny, and one of the aliens turns into a humanoid zebra to attack her. The Turbo Granny quickly dodges the attack and then destroys the alien's body. She attacks the last alien after that, but he uses a special attack to send her crashing into the wall. Ken suddenly gets some control of his body back, and he tells the aliens that he is willing to give them anything they want if they let the girl go. He yells that since he had no friends, he always wanted aliens to be his friends. He reached out to them countless times from his childhood, but they never came. He kept getting bullied by his classmates, and no one ever acknowledged him till Momo came along and treated him like a human. He declares that he won't let anything happen to her, even if he has to become a monster for that. He turns into a ghost again, but the alien immediately shoots him and forces him to return to being closer to a human. The alien decides to dispose of him because they don't have any use for males. He then begins manipulating Momo's brain, and as she resists, she remembers how her grandma used to tell her to release her kai from the top of her head. She wonders why she is remembering it now but decides to give it a shot. She tries to release her kai from the top of her head, and suddenly, the device holding her down shatters. No one can believe what just happened, but Momo finally realizes that her grandma was preparing her for this day the entire time. She feels her body overflowing with power and sends the alien flying with a kick, and he crashes into the moon, which was actually their spaceship in disguise. The things with aliens seem sorted, and Momo tells Ken that they should escape now. However, he is under Turbo Granny's control right now, and she attacks Momo. Momo tells her to let go of Ken, and with her power, she pushes the old ghost out of his body. However, Ken begins to squirm around in pain, and Turbo Granny says that she has control of his little banana, and as long as she has that, he will remain possessed by her. Momo tells her to return Ken's manhood to him at once, but Turbo Granny tells her to come to her tunnel so that they can have a fair match if she wants to save the boy. Turbo Granny flies away with that, and then the alien spaceship heads straight towards the building. It pierces through the building, and Momo somehow gets out safely with Ken. Later, she injects her kai into his body to keep him stable. They both realize that both aliens and ghosts are real, and now they have gotten too deeply involved with them. Ken asks how he can get free from this curse, and Momo tells him that they will need to beat the shit out of Turbo Granny to get her to free him. Ken says he will go there and work it out somehow and starts walking away. He takes off his shirt and pants and tells Momo to wear them and go home. She tells him that she can't leave him alone after all this, and he asks if she is sure. He says that he is just an awkward guy, and Momo suddenly feels a waterfall between her legs because Ken just recited a line from her favorite actor. She tries calming herself down and asks Ken for his name because she never got the chance to know it before. He replies that his name is Ken Takakura, which is the name of Momo's favorite actor as well, and her mind is blown away. She immediately starts throwing a tantrum because she can't accept that her favorite actor, who was the peak of masculinity, shares his name with this wimp. She begins rolling on the ground trying to forget what she just heard, and in the meantime, Turbo Granny begins getting control of Ken's body. He asks her to give him some spiritual energy quickly, and she frantically slams him into the wall with her power. Momo then says that they need to set down some rules if they are going to work together. The first rule is that neither of them will mention Ken's name, and she will call him Okarun because he was in the occult club. Ken has no choice but to accept this rule, and they head back to the city while bickering with each other. Soon, the sun rises, and Momo asks Ken to come to her home because he needs a shower and a fresh change of clothes along with expert help. However, as soon as they reach her house, she warns him to be prepared for anything because her grandma is really against her bringing boys home, and she almost killed her ex-boyfriend. Ken freaks out on hearing this, and then as he enters the gate, his body suddenly starts burning. Momo throws him into the nearby canal in a panic and then finds that there was a talisman warding off evil spirits on the gate that caused Ken to catch fire. This dimwit removes the talisman so that Ken can come inside, and only after that does she notice that he got a new hairdo after almost burning to death. She leads him inside the house and finds that her granny is not home, so she tells him to wait outside the room while she changes. However, the moment she stops supplying him with her kai, he begins turning into a ghost again and barges into her room. Momo uses her power to slam him into the wall and tells him to turn his face away while she changes. However, the moment she stops supplying him with her kai, he begins turning into a ghost again and barges into her room. Momo uses her power to slam him into the wall and tells him to turn his face away while she changes. When she is done, she gives Ken some of her old clothes to wear in the meantime, but he is still too shy about being in a girl's room. Then suddenly, Momo asks him if what Turbo Granny said earlier means that he's literally like a Ken doll down there. Ken immediately goes to the side to check it out, and to his horror, he really has lost his manhood. He freaks out, but Momo teases him, asking him to show it to her. Ken blames her for this because she was the one who challenged him to go into the tunnel, and she replies that he was the one who came to her first with the occult stories. Ken goes silent on hearing this and then admits that he was desperate about talking to her because he thought that they could be friends. He says that it was just his wishful thinking, and now he realizes that they are too different from each other. He apologizes to Momo for dragging her into the danger and tells her to ignore him once this case is resolved. Momo gets upset at this and tells him that if he keeps shoving people away like this, he will never have any friends. She goes close to Ken and begins poking him to get a reaction, and he suddenly calls her ugly. Momo snaps at this and grabs him by the collar, and Ken says that she has no tact and her words hurt his sensitive heart. While they are fighting, the doorbell suddenly rings, and Ken says that Momo's grandma must be back. She just tells him to stay quiet because their doorbell doesn't sound like this. She suddenly remembers that her grandma once told her that they have two doorbells. One of them is for humans, and the other is one for evil spirits, and one of them is right outside their door. Momo freaks out as she realizes that the evil spirit entered their property because she took the talisman from the gate, and she decides to place it back to ward off the evil spirits. She tells Ken to wait outside their boundary till her grandma gets home, but just as they go outside, the sky turns dark, and then suddenly, the house and the garden are suddenly enclosed by thick stone walls. Ken and Momo freak out because now they are trapped inside and can't put the talisman outside the gate because the gate has been fused with the walls. Suddenly, they start bleeding from their nose, and Momo looks around to find the cause and sees a giant monster hanging upside down over her house. It calls them evil people who broke their promises and tries to punch them, but Momo pushes Ken away from danger, and the monster's punch hits the talisman and the wall. The giant sumo spirit chases them while demanding Ken to give him his banana, making Ken wonder where all this demand for his member was all his life before this day. He then says that the monster chasing after them is not a spirit, but an alien called the Flatwood Monster that has been sighted all over the world before. He believes that the doorbell that senses evil spirits got triggered by the alien, and there must be some similarity between the two. Meanwhile, the giant alien begins spewing poisonous black smoke from its mouth, and Momo says that if they don't do something about it, they will die. Suddenly, things become even worse as Turbo Granny begins taking control of Ken again, and while Momo tries to subdue her, the alien attacks them, destroying the house. They run away and take shelter in a storeroom where Momo manages to push the ghost back, but Ken's left hand still remains cursed. Momo tries focusing and dispelling the curse of the granny ghost entirely, but then Ken gets an idea. He asks her to let the curse take over him, because he can use that power to fight against the alien. Suddenly, the alien finds them and destroys the storehouse, and they barely make it out alive. Ken asks Momo to just release the curse on his body and keep the curse on his mind under control so that he can fight properly, and she tells him that she has not mastered her powers to that level. She still tries her best, and as the monster sends another shockwave towards them, she succeeds in giving Ken what he wants. He can now control his power fully and evade the attacks thanks to it. Momo is impressed, but to her shock, Ken has become a lazy and depressed person in this form. Just like me, but with superpowers. He drags himself towards the alien and just stands there as the alien smashes him with a clap. However, Ken dodged the attack at the last moment thanks to Turbo Granny's power and also tore away the alien's fingertips. Momo is confident that they can win, but then suddenly Ken coughs blood and loses his powers. The alien smashes him into the ground, but before he can do anything else, Momo pulls Ken back. He apologizes that he failed to use the power of Turbo Granny because his body couldn't handle it. He freaks out, wondering how they can defeat the alien monster, when suddenly, Momo gets an idea. Since the alien is using sumo moves, she thinks if they get its hands to touch the ground, it will be defeated as per the rules. Ken tells her that she is a goddamn genius and gets ready to attack the alien once again. With Momo's help, he enters his superpowered mode again and charges at the sumo alien, tearing through its leg with great speed. Momo finishes the job by using her power to force the alien to the ground, and just as its hand touches the ground, it melts. However, the alien has got some crazy core strength, and it does a backflip to get on its feet before its second hand touches the ground. It then grabs Momo and punches her against the wall, and the curse begins to take over Ken's body. The curse suddenly stops, and the confused Ken looks at Momo, who is still fighting back despite taking serious blows from the alien. She taunts it, calling it a cheater who keeps fighting even after touching his hand on the ground, and the alien begins pummeling her. Ken screams at her to let him fight, but Momo eats up all the punches till she is in a crater in the wall. Once she is confident that the depth is enough and she is out of the plot, she pulls Ken towards her and then puts the talisman back on the gate, reinstalling the protective field that burns away the alien. Momo hugs Ken tightly so that he remains out of the protective field, and after a few seconds, as the alien is completely disintegrated, everything returns to normal. Momo is overjoyed that they won, but then suddenly, she loses consciousness because of using too much energy. Ken tries to reach her, but then the Turbo Granny takes over his body. Turbo Granny lifts Momo up when suddenly a wooden brick and a nail hit her head and send her flying as Momo's granny Seiko, a total gilf, comes there. She says that she thought that her granddaughter brought another loser home, but this time, he is not even human. Turbo Granny immediately attacks the gilf from behind, but she has a protective barrier around her that burns the ghost before she can touch her. Seiko knew this is how things would play out, and just as she calculated, the ghost is already in a barrier she has set up. The ghost tries to attack her, but the barrier sets her on fire as soon as she touches it. Momo's grandma begins smashing Turbo Granny, but not in the way you all want to smash her. She beats the ghost with her bat to exorcise it, but Turbo Granny warns her that if she kills her, the boy she is possessing will also die. Seiko says that she doesn't care about that, and it will be better for her if the boys in Momo's life just vanish. She creates another circle around the barrier and then erases the first one a bit, burning the ghost. Hours later, Momo finally wakes up in her room, and the first thing she thinks about is Ken. She runs downstairs where her grandmommy is rewatching Friends like she used to do in her youth. Momo asks her if she saw a boy with glasses, and her grandma asks her if she sent the boy to a spiritual hotspot. Momo affirms and then asks what happened to Ken. Seiko says that she destroyed the evil spirit, and Momo freaks out. Suddenly, Seiko changes her attitude and brings up the grudges from the past when Momo told her that she was a fake and ghosts aren't real. The frustrated Momo bows down to her as she apologizes and asks her what she did to Ken. Her grandma tells her to head to the main shrine, and Momo curses her as she runs towards the shrine, thinking that she will find Ken's ashes there. She begins to blame herself for this because Ken just wanted to make friends, and she got him cursed. However, when she opens the door of the shrine, Ken is peacefully eating rice. He gets really relieved to see her because he thought he harmed her, but Momo shuts the door in his face because she suddenly realizes that she was worried about this nerd. After she curses him for being alive, she finally feels relieved, and just then, Seiko comes there. She teases Momo for being so desperate earlier and asks if she likes nerds. Momo tells her to snap it, and then Seiko says that she locked Ken in the shrine so that Turbo Granny doesn't take control of him. Momo tells her grandma that Turbo Granny took Ken's ding-dong, and she is responsible for it, so she wants to beat Turbo Granny, get Ken his tool back, and end things happily. She also tells the girl about meeting aliens and awakening her psychic powers, but Seiko doesn't believe in aliens at all, and she has only heard about the existence of psychic powers. She tells Momo to forget about Ken ever becoming normal, because Turbo Granny is a powerful ghost that has been around for centuries, and to make matters worse, it seems that there was another powerful ghost in the tunnel that she recently moved into, and the two ghosts had fused together. Seiko says that the tunnel is the ghost's domain, and in the past when she tried to exercise it, she could not enter because the spiritual pressure there was extremely strong. That means defeating Turbo Granny is impossible as long